The Vietnam War, which lasted from 1955 to 1975, was a civil war fought between the communist North Vietnam, who was hoping to reunify the entire country under a single communist government, and the non-communist South Vietnam, who was fighting to maintain an independent nation aligned with Western powers. As the conflict escalated, the United States became more heavily involved to prevent the spread of communism throughout Southeast Asia and to ensure that a domino effect of communism wouldn't occur. They eventually entered the war as a combatant in 1965. For many Americans, especially young men with the possibility of being drafted, the war affected their daily lives. With the fear of being drafted, many young men took action to avoid joining the war, whether it was attending college, claiming a medical condition, or enlisting in a safer branch like the Marines or Reserves.
So, when the war began, what were your thoughts on being drafted?
When the war began, I was an undergraduate, or actually it was already underway long before that, but it really came to prominence when I was an undergraduate at the University of California in Berkeley. And Berkeley was kind of an epicenter for various movements. It started with the free speech movement in 1964, and then it moved into the Vietnam anti-war movement.
The anti-Vietnam War movement was a widespread effort to oppose U.S. involvement in Vietnam. It grew from small protests into huge demonstrations led by students and everyday Americans. It helped change public opinion, disrupted the draft, and pushed the government to rethink the war and its policies.
So all those things were front and center on campus, and I was constantly focused on those issues, both in class and outside of class. And I came to conclude that the Vietnam War did not make a lot of sense for our country, and we should not be there. In 1969, when I was I was going to graduate the next year, they had the first draft lottery.
The Vietnam War Draft Lottery was a system the U.S. used to decide who would be drafted into the military. Names and birth dates were randomly drawn, and men with the lowest numbers were called to serve first. It was meant to be fairer than earlier draft methods.
And ultimately, I ended up with a very low number. It was a single-digit number. So my options were to resist the draft or find a way to do some service so that I could continue my education. So I opted for the latter and joined a U.S. Army Reserve unit in San Francisco. And in 1970, I was married to my wife and Denise Bates. And so I had obligations to her, and I had obligations to finish up my schooling. So what the Army enabled me to do is that summer of 1970, I went on active duty and went to basic training, and that took 6 weeks. Then went on to law school in the South Bay, and because of moving, I changed units, and I joined a unit down there, and changed my job to ultimately becoming a training sergeant. The unit did training for new recruits. And so we had a lot of drill instructors, and then I was in charge of their curriculum and making sure that they did what they were supposed to do in terms of training the troops. And the whole term was 6 years. So I started in roughly 1970, and I finished up in 1976.
What was the atmosphere like among people your age when the draft was happening?
Most of the people I was with were resistant to going into the Army. They didn't want to do that. There were a lot of demonstrations against it, or they were just trying to find different ways to get out of it. And many of them were looking for medical excuses to do it. And they really came up with some creative approaches in that regard. I remember one guy said, what did he say? He was allergic to some over-the-counter medication that the Army might have him take. So as a result, he should be excluded from service. That was a very interesting thing. When you sign up for the draft, which you're required to do when you turn 18, they make you go to a medical exam. That was in Oakland, California. And when I showed up for my medical exam, there were probably, maybe 100 other young men who had to do it. So we're all lined up at the door, and around us, there's a big demonstration, against the draft. So we're dealing with all that excitement. We're also nervous and scared about having to go through this procedure. And what they do is you go in, and then they make you strip to your shorts, and then they take you through these various stations, and they test all your body parts, and including your vision. And with me, I had a legitimate reason for maybe getting out, and that was I had no visibility out of my left eye, and I brought a letter to that effect. But apparently the doctors didn't believe it and certified me as qualified to go into the Army.
Did the political climate affect how you felt in the situation?
Absolutely. The political climate definitely influenced the way I was thinking. I was reading and hearing about a lot of different attitudes that influenced my reaction to the war, to civil rights, and to the free speech movement.
How do you think that period shaped you and others around you? Did it change anything about you?
I think it definitely changed me because I had a much broader perspective. I started, instead of just thinking about myself, I thought about my fellow man. I thought of people who were less privileged, who could benefit from our help. And I've always aspired to do that personally and professionally. And if I hadn't had that exposure, I might be different. I might be just thinking of myself and not thinking of others.
The Vietnam War was more than a battle between nations. It was a moment that changed humanity's understanding of war itself. It left lasting pain for soldiers, civilians, and families, but it also forced people to question authority and the true cost of conflict. The war showed how powerful ideas and decisions can shape millions of lives, and how voices of protest can push society towards change.